Hi and welcome to the Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour for May. This is a live recording of the Teams meeting, so expect F's, Jeff's and controversial opinions. The Microsoft Fast Track Recoginised Solution Architect is, apart from a mouthful, one of the most sought after and admired recognitions in our Dynamics and Power Platform industry. Hear from Mohamed Mostafa, Dynamics Recoginised since 2019, and Daniel Laskewitz, many times MVP and newly minted Power Platform Recognized, as they discuss the program, the benefits to you, and how you can get started on that journey. Chat and questions from the glamorous Alison Mulligan and the less glamorous yours truly, Carl Cookson. Please follow and subscribe in your usual place and enjoy this episode.
Are we live now, Carl?
Yep.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the May Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour. We are very excited this evening to be joined by Daniel Laskewitz and Mohamed Mostafa, who are going to give us their take and their thoughts and opinions on being fast-track recognised solution architects. So very much looking forward to that. Before we get started, we got do we have a side? We've got no Chris this evening, so if you were here hoping to see Chris Huntingford, and you may as well leave now. Otherwise you'll just be disappointed because he's not here. He's studying rocks or trilobites or something. I'm sure. We do have a code of conduct. This is a community-run event. We are encouraging of all viewpoints and opinions, and we ask you to be also encouraging of other people's viewpoints and opinions, and to be respectful and to be welcoming to people, and to understand that everybody on these calls is at a different level of knowledge. Something that's obvious or well known to you may not be to somebody else. And that we're all human beings and we all have our own opinions, and you may not agree with someone else's opinion. It's probably mine, and that's fine. It's very cool to have different opinions, and that's what makes this such a wonderful community. But there's no need for anybody to get bent out of shape about anything unless it's Chris. And if you hear or see anybody saying or doing anything on this call that you think is uncalled for or not becoming or not welcome as behaviour in this community, then please do let me know. Unless it's me that did it, which is probably very likely, in which case tell Carl, and he'll kick me out and he'll do the rest of the session without me, and I will be banished for all eternity, which will please many of you no end, I'm sure. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guests to the floor and ask them to give us a quick introduction about who they are, where they're working, and an interesting fact about them that you would not guess, that is not backwaxing, hopefully. And I would like Daniel to go first alphabetically. Sorry.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. My name is Daniel Laskewitz. I work for Society in the Netherlands, which is part of Capgemini, and that's also in our logo nowadays. So if you see the logo, then you know that that it's part of Capgemini. I work there as the Power Platform lead in the Netherlands, and I have been working for them for a very long time. I'm starting to feel very old because it's 9.5 years, and yeah, that's pretty long, right? Yeah. So a fun fact about me, I like to go to a lot of soccer games, and I normally always take a picture with my beer, and my friends always call it the signature shot because I always take the same picture and send it to everybody, and some of them doubt that it's a real picture every time. They think I just reorder it and do it again, but I'd always do that. And nice. Tonight, actually, is the game of Ajax, my favorite soccer team. And I skipped that because I was here, of course. And the fun part is that I was thinking that we would already be the champions of the Netherlands, but we weren't. And today is the game that it's probably gonna happen. So I'm
It's the one
missing
you
out
really,
now.
really wanted to see. Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of texts from friends in the stadium now, like with all pictures, etc. And yeah, but
Oh my
I
God.
love to
What
be
time does
here.
it-
But
What time does it kick off? Is it 7:30?
5 minutes ago.
Oh, 5 minutes ago.
It was exactly
Shite.
on the same time.
Oh man, that
But
sucks.
yeah,
What are the odds?
yeah,
I thought
but
it was pronounced Ajax.
Ajax, yeah.
Oh, it is Ajax, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's
Yeah,
I know nothing about football, but I knew that.
I always say Ajax when I'm talking to English people.
Because yeah,
because they pronounce it differently.
Yeah. I get it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry we ruined the potential championship.
No.
game for you then. So good.
I'm watching the game on the side. No jokes. I
So
saw
if
the
you
question.
don't answer right away, we'll just do this and get your attention back. Mohamed, over to you, sir.
Right, so hi everyone, it's Mohamed Mostafa. I'm the Solutions Director at Tech Labs London. So I've been working with Microsoft Dynamics 365, CRM, Power Platform, whatever you like to call it these days, since it used to be called Microsoft CRM version 1.2. So that was back in 2006. So yeah, so it's been a while. I think lost a lot of hair on the way, and but it's been quite a journey. And yeah, I worked in a number of Microsoft partners. I specifically worked with some of the kind of the names that some of you already work at or have worked at, and then currently 5.5 years now at Tech Labs London, and we specialize in Power Platform and Dynamics 365. Our Microsoft MVP and Fast Track Architect. And I really love this community and everything around our community. It's a very welcoming community. And as Alison mentioned, and everyone else will be mentioning, it's an open discussion. I think it's a happy hour, so not formal. And my own disclaimer is I'm only going to tell you my opinions. So if it might be wrong opinion, it might be wrong information, don't hold anyone to it. It's definitely not an official representation of Microsoft or anyone else. It's just happy hour. I'm actually in Dubai, so it's 10:10 for me in the evening, which is not too bad. So yeah, so that's me. It's been a long day.
So the Ajax game hasn't started for you yet.
Yeah, there's 2 hours left before it starts.
Nice. What's your fun fact that nobody would guess about?
Oh, I was trying to skip through this.
Well, let you get away.
Right, I'll tell you a fun fact. I don't even know if it's fun or odd or strange, but anyone heard of Tintin books?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually love reading Tintin books, and I've read them many times. And I don't know, maybe it's something to do with my childhood, but when I read them again, I feel calm and relaxed. So although I know exactly what's going to happen, sometimes I have the whole set. I've got it in color. I've got, and even my kids have them as well. So they've read them as well. So sometimes I would be on a plane and reading a Tintin book, and people think like, what a crazy guy. But yeah, it's
I mean,
nice.
It could be worse.
Yeah, exactly, true. I try to find something not too bad.
Yeah, totally. No, I think that's really interesting. Oh, I would not have guessed that. You're absolutely right.
No, not about me.
Tech Labs. Am I right in thinking that you guys specialize in housing? Is that right?
So obviously, housing is a big kind of part of our focus. So we have a product called iProperty Cloud, which is built on Power Platform and Dynamics 365. So I would say 50-60% of our business is iProperty Cloud's property housing. And it's not just housing in the UK, we've got a few across Europe. But we also do kind of standard system integrator type of Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform projects. And we've got quite a few kind of government and bank type projects that we also do. So that would probably be 40-50% of the business. But it keeps on changing depending on projects.
Yeah, what's happening and how big customers you get in. And
yeah, but we don't do like finance and operations. We very focus on CE, customer engagement, and Power Platform, everything around that, including Azure services.
Cool. So that leads me very nicely on to Fast Track Recognized Solution Architect. Yes or no? And like what? I mean, because for me, that is a much higher accolade than MVP or anything like that, because it's an actual it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's proof that you're good at your job, right?
It's a certification. You have to do certain things. I agree.
Right, but it's quite, and I think part of the reason why it's a high accolade is because not everybody can qualify for it. You have to have done a certain amount of reasonable sized projects, etc. You have to have done certain things for certain types of customers, and also it's quite an onerous process to go through. Well, I don't know if onerous is the right word, but there's quite a rigorous process around it, right? So, do you guys want to take it in turns to talk us through your experience of going through that process, because you get nominated in the first instance, right? Is that right?
Yeah, so you get nominated and somebody from your company should do that, and you can't nominate yourself, obviously. So that's a first thing. And during the nomination they also can enter some projects that you were in, and then Microsoft will look at those projects. If they were, for instance, a big enough size, because they are also looking at architects that do the bigger type of customers. So they don't want to have like the really small solutions or something like that. They want to have the larger enterprise scale architects. So that's what they are looking for. And I got an email from Microsoft that I got nominated. And I had no clue who did it. I finally found out after I got the award, actually, but it was one of my colleagues and my really close colleagues, actually. I thought there was somebody higher up that nominated me, because that was kind of the thing that I was expecting, but it was actually my close colleague who nominated me. Then after that, you actually don't hear a lot after that for a long time. For me, at least, it was. And that was probably for me because I was relatively early in the process. So they, of course, have a yearly cycle. Right. And they close the nominations at a certain point. And I think that I got the nomination, and I don't know exact timelines, but I probably got the nomination at the really early stage. And that's why I had to wait a very long time. But after that, I actually got a message that they saw my my nomination, and then they invited me for an interview. And that was the second step.
So first off, you have to qualify with the projects that you do, and there's a lot of Power Cap managed customers. I think you were saying the other day. So it's certain types of customers, certain types of projects that qualify you. You have to be nominated, and then you have to go for an interview.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was I have the Fast Track Recognized Solution Architect title for Power Apps, and I think Mohamed has a different one. That's the CE one, probably.
Mine is Dynamics 365 CE, and I think because I started. I'm not sure, Daniel. You got it about a year ago or less?
No, this year.
This year, okay.
Yeah.
So I started it a little bit earlier, when people used to meet each other in 2019. So I attended. I got nominated by a Microsoft person, actually, in the Fast Track team, without mentioning names, but someone kind of senior in the Fast Track team. They know about the projects and the programs we've done. And then I did a physical. We had to, at the time, do a physical in-person 5-day training with Microsoft. That was a criteria that you had to do, and you had to attend all 5 days to be qualified. And there was no test or exam at the end, but you had to be kind of interactive. And there quite a few people attended, but not everyone moved on to the next stage. So it's slightly different from Daniel's process. I think Daniel's process is more adapted to also to the pandemic and everything else. And then it took. So January 2019, I got it in April 2020. So a good year and 3-4 months before I got it. And then after the training, I had to do a number of projects, like Daniel mentioned, which are Fast Track related. And that was specifically types of projects where you migrate. Because remember, Fast Track used to be very focused on the migration of on-premise to the cloud. So I had to have, at the time, which again might not be the case now, but I had to have 3 programs or projects where you migrated an on-premise Dynamics 365 CE to Dynamics 365 in the cloud with Microsoft Fast Track with at least 250 users. So that was the criteria in my time. And then after that, after they qualify these projects and they qualified that they were succeeded, I had to complete the 3 projects. Then I had to go into the kind of the presentation and the architecture kind of, don't want to call it a session or a test or something like that. So I had to prepare, I had to show them basically a solution architecture, a complex solution architecture that I've built for one of these projects or any other similar project, and present to the product engineering team. I had 3 people, I think, from the product engineering team. I had to present, and Fast Track team specifically, to show them how the solution is architected. Can it be architected differently? Why it's architected this way? It was about an hour and a half of discussion and presentation and demo. So that's part of the, I think the fun of it is that you really go through rigorous processes. I remember when I earned it, and I put a post saying, I'm very happy to be recognized as Fast Track architect after a fairly I can't remember the term I used, fairly complex process or something like this, or fairly rigid process. I remember James Phillips responded and said, "Fairly? I don't think you're being honest here." so yeah, it wasn't fairly. It was very rigid, but I didn't want to put people off. But yeah, it's a great process. Obviously it's a great certification as well. But I think it was the good thing about it is that you have to go through all these hoops, so to prove yourself and to prove that you're you can do it. But not to say it's impossible. Absolutely not. I think pretty much maybe everyone on this call can go for it if they put their head to it and spend the time and the effort. But I don't think by any way it's exclusive or impossible or even too complex. You just need to kind of make sure that you satisfy the criteria.
Okay, so it sounds like they've pared the process down because they obviously can't spend a lot of time. But I wonder why they took out the training, the 5-day, or do they still do that in a different?
Yeah, I actually don't know if that was required, but it might have been that I already took that training, because I believe they have the PowerCat bootcamp kind of thing.
Yeah, there was
architecture bootcamp thing.
Yeah.
I think that was something that I did already before. So maybe they just flagged me for it that I already did that. But I haven't seen it as a requirement or something.
Okay.
The same was actually for the certifications, because I heard from other people that got it, they needed to do, for Power Platform at least, they needed to do all the certifications. So the PL 100, 200, 400, 600, etc. And I already had those as well, so they flagged me for that as well, probably. Yeah. But for me, that was not something I had to do, especially for the certification.
But I think again, in my case, the PL 600, it was actually MB 600 at the time, was part of the criteria. I had to pass the MB 600. And I don't know if I should let you into this information, but I'm just going to say, and then I can pretend that never happened. I actually wrote some of the questions of the MB 600, so I raised it to them and I said, guys, I know all the questions and the answers with the model answers. Do you really want me to sit for that exam? And they said, no, it's fine, you don't have to. Because it would be crazy to go and do an exam that I know all the model answers for.
That's fine. You take the wins where you find them, right? Exactly. So yeah. So like in terms of a checklist, if somebody's mentally building up a checklist, or somebody wants to try and get through the Fast Track Solution Architect, they need to work. How can they? What kind of checklist can they make? So number one, obviously, they can do all their certifications in their specific area. Yeah. What would be your next?
If you don't mind, Daniel, I'll jump in and then hand over to you with more details. But I think from my side, I think it's always with certification. It's always good to know, like this. You know what you want to do, but and also when you want it by, so you work towards that. And I don't think there's no kind of advantage in trying to rush it. It will come at the right time. As I said, it took me a year and 4 months, and I wasn't like asking or worried about not getting it. I think it just takes time, and you tick the boxes, and once you tick the boxes, you get it. And that's, again, the beauty of this certification. The MVP, you could be doing a lot of work and you still don't get it for one reason or the other, right? You would never know. It's not tick box exercise, but with this one, if you satisfy the criteria, as far as again, I'm not sure what the criteria is today, but as far as your positive and you're doing all what is expected to achieve this criteria, you would get it. So I would summarize from my experience would be the training, which Daniel, again, sounds like you have already done it. I think they didn't tell you that, by the way, we're only letting you because you've done it, but you have done the training, you have to do the certification, and the most important part would be the presentation to the product team to go through it. And of course, before that is the nomination, and I don't think the number of projects is still a criteria, actually. The kind of the specific projects, again, it might not be, because bear in mind that Fast Track now, even the Fast Track team, and maybe that's a different point of discussion, they don't do the migration anymore. The migration now, you raise a support ticket, and if they satisfy their criteria, they put you through this system to upgrade from on-premise to cloud. So Fast Track team is less focused on this upgrade from on-premise to the cloud to other areas within larger programs and the success of larger programs. But we can talk about that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Absolutely, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so for me, actually, to talk about the checklist, I believe it's mostly certification program that you need to do the boot camp, of course. Also, one of the things that you really want to know about is all the best practices, because during my interview that I had, I got a lot of questions about best practices, about also the really difficult situations that you can end up in at a customer. Like, for instance, when Microsoft sellers, they sold a bunch of licenses and they promised a whole bunch of things. And then after that, you come in and then you have to build it. And you're like, yeah, well, we need to implement it, but the things that were promised, they aren't possible, actually. So we need to do something about that. And those kinds of questions were also asked during the interview, like, how do you respond when a customer says X or Y after situation something? And that's really the important thing for me also. And it was also the most fun thing about the whole process, I believe. That I had an interview with somebody and I was just talking to somebody for more than an hour. I believe it was 1.5 or 2 hours. And I was just talking to somebody who's really knowledgeable, and he was asking a lot of questions and really good questions, actually. Some of the questions I was like, oh, wow, I never thought about that, but I would probably do this. But yeah, there were so many good questions, and it's not just about the product. So it's not about knowing everything about the features, but also how to talk to the features, to the customers about those features, etc. Those kinds of things, and how which features would you use to get to point something. So that's really the important thing to see as well. And yeah, for me it was kind of a big test, actually. The whole interview was almost a certification, like you're doing an exam, but then just talking to somebody. And that's for me that was really valuable, because for me always the certifications, they are really nice, but they're always about some kind of cases that they have, like example cases, etc. And it always feels a little bit like made up. And in this moment, it was more like you were talking about the real cases that you did at your customer and why you made certain choices. It's just like Mohamed said, with why did you architect it like this, the solution, and not a different way? What other ways are there, etc. Those kinds of questions you get as well. And that's really, yeah, it's interesting to see that.
Okay, so like that, what they're asking you is about, like, on this project you did this way.
Yeah.
Why specifically did you, like, what ways did you consider, and why did you choose this code?
Yeah, and that was also because I had one of my customers was a PowerCat managed customer, and they know everything about that, of course, because they are heavily involved there as well. so they could see almost everything about that. So yeah, that's why they asked a bunch of questions about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Carlos?
I was just going to, I think, emphasize that, because from what I understand is they're taking environment IDs and doing a lot of looking in the back end to look at telematics, the relationship diagrams, all those sort of things where you sort of design the internals, and whether you're using best practices. You know, you've created a new case table, for instance, and that sort of thing that some people would see as being negative. And I think as long as you justify it to them, I think that'll be okay. But they are doing a lot of that work to dig into the back end as well as just taking your word for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think to add to what Daniel was saying is that one of the interesting parts of the process is that you have this interaction with the product team, because if you think about it as an architect, it's also about interacting with customers, interacting with business stakeholders, interacting with IT from the customer side. So it's not just about I can answer the questions, which is great and very important from an exam. You know, if I go for an exam and I know all the answers and I answer correctly, it's very important, very good. But on its own, it's not enough to be an architect, right? You need to be able to speak to the customer. You need to be able to manage expectation. You need to be going down a little bit on the technical side or going up a little bit on the technical side, depending on who you are talking to or who's asking the question. So I feel, and I wasn't told that, but I feel that part of their qualification and their qualifying each person is to look at, can this person be an architect who can handle a situation where an IT person are asking them some deep technical question, but can they also handle if the question is a bit business? Because some of the questions I was asked was also business in terms of, so when you did this integration, why did you do it one way instead of two ways? Or did you not need data in here? Or you know, some of the questions were not very like deep technical, and some of the questions were, but some weren't, because again, as an architect, and regardless of the certification, everyone on this call who wants to be an architect or is already being an architect would know that you need to be able to go up and down with every customer and every individual within and this is very, very important. Honestly, you can have the best technical person, but they don't know how to deal with customer, or you can have a very good person who knows exactly how to deal with customers, but maybe technically they don't have to be the expert. That for me is an important differentiation. It's great to have both, but you know that's the point.
Yeah, it's a bit like the difference between MVP and RD, isn't it? Like you have to understand the commercial aspects of the business model of your customer's business and your own business model, right?
Well, I think
I never see the difference between the RD and the MVP. Maybe the next happy hour should be.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because I actually never knew what was the difference between the RD and the MVP. That's kind of.
That's my take on it. I don't know how accurate it is.
A call to Claire will rectify this.
We'll get Claire in. Yeah,
get Claire to tell us, right?
Yeah, she can come in and do something.
Claire's the MVP manager, for people that don't know who Claire was. I'm assuming that's the Claire you're talking about.
Yeah,
yes.
Only the UK and Ireland, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's like globally, am I right in thinking there's only like 70 or 80 solution architects per, like there's like 70 or 80 for Power Platform and 70 or 80 for Dynamics, I think.
I think for Power Platform that's the case, yeah. I don't know for Dynamics.
That for CE. I think for CE, I'll have
Not
to.
No, I mean for everything, for
Dynamics.
F&O and everything.
Oh,
like Dynamics as a whole.
Thing. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Power Platform is also
number 21. That's I recall that correctly, because I remember I was. It was because I was the first intake, so I was one of 21. But I'm sure there's more now.
Yeah, I was going to say, when did it start? When was the first year?
It was
2019. Was it when you?
2019. So I did it. I earned it 2020, April 2020. So it would have been 2019. They started the process, but the first intake, if I remember correctly, again I might be wrong, but my kind of recollection is that it started in 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, so it's a fairly recent.
And Phil in the background is just correcting me as well. Phil and I work together.
Oh, thank you.
He always correct me. Thanks, Phil. But he's right. He's a detailed guy.
I think I saw the first round of fast track recognized solution architects when I was in Atlanta at MBAS, Business Application Summit. And
Okay.
that was when
2019?
they got promoted on the big screen. That was kind of the thing. And that must be 2019 then.
Yeah,
I think.
It was May 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I'm not the first one to say. I'm glad I said the.
Ooh.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was a fairly recent,
Yeah.
like in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
But yeah. So like to go to approach this from a different angle, why would somebody want to be fast track recognized solution architect? You know, what's in it for you as an individual?
For me, actually, it was mostly about it was a different kind of accolade than the MVP accolade. I already was an MVP for a couple of years, and I really like that because I actually like being an MVP, but I also like doing all the stuff that you need to do for being an MVP. So I love talking to an audience. For instance, last month I was in Berlin at the Power Platform conference, and I stood in front of an audience again, and I was like, oh man, I miss this so much. But those kinds of things I really love. But MVP is always, it's more about what your impact is on the community, or how many people you reach, etc. Those kinds of things. And the fast track recognized solution architect is more about what you do for your customers. And also about what your knowledge actually is, because if you don't know enough about the product that you are going to talk about, then you will probably not pass the interviews, because they actually asked pretty tough questions, just like Mohamed said. And that's the thing for me actually, is that I really like the accolade, because it stands for being good at your work at the customers, and also just having a lot of knowledge about the whole stuff.
What about you, Mohamed?
I think for me, obviously everything Daniel said. Plus, I would say from my point of view, I think you don't have to be an MVP to be a fast track architect. You don't have to be a fast track architect to be MVP. They're two separate things. I would say the fast track architect, because it's a certification, an accreditation, so you're going through an exam as well as everything else we discussed. I think it has its own kind of interesting part as a process, but also from an access point of view to the Microsoft product engineering team. If you are very focused on the product side and you want to understand a lot more on the product, then being a fast track architect gives you that access. You don't have to be an MVP to have this access. You can do it via the fast track route. If you don't want to focus a lot on the community, or you don't have the time to do a lot on the community, the fast track architect is more focused on the technical side and allows you to have the same access or equivalent access from the MVP, similar to the MVP one. On the so that's one big part of it. I think that the other part of being a kind of a fast track architect is that it's a personal recognition, right? If you've been in the field for some time and you feel that you've got enough kind of knowledge and experience, it's a way to Microsoft to recognize that effort based on kind of specific criteria. So I think that it's definitely something very nice to have. And it's a great community, very similar to the MVP, if not the same as MVP. So it's again great community, joining calls with the wider fast track team, and you still sign the 16 NDA documents they have to sign as an MVP and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's a kind of a similar experience, but on a different kind of angle, from a different angle.
Like, is there any benefit to you other than just the enjoyment of doing it and the personal, like, it's recognition? Like, I think it's a very high level recognition, and I think that is important, and it's important to distinguish that it's not just being visible in the community. It's, absolutely having solid, good quality work, good quality projects behind you, knowing your stuff, being, as you said, being able to communicate with customers and stakeholders at all levels, understanding, what it is that you're, because the customer is buying a a result, right? They're not buying a technical system, they're buying the result that system, or or whatever it is that you're providing to them, they're buying a result. So I think it, as I said right at the beginning, I think it's a very high level accolade. But apart from that, and apart from bragging rights, then is there any other tangible benefit? I mean, does it help you career wise? Well, probably difficult for you, Mohamed, unless you promote yourself. But is there any other tangible benefit that you get from having the recognition?
One point from my side would be the customer kind of trust, right? Because you gain the customer trust when they feel that you've got the recognition from Microsoft that you are qualified to architect their solution or work on their solution. So I think these accreditations, just like exams and certifications, this kind of accreditation helps the customer to feel like this person has been scrutinized by Microsoft to at least know enough to architect their solution. And I think it's always good when it's a proven process. I don't think there's any fast track architect who had it easy or wanted it easy. They all worked hard for it and earned it. And as I said, everyone can. But I think it gives that customer confidence that they are in safe hands to some extent.
Daniel?
Yeah, I agree. For me also, when I got the award and I got the badge on LinkedIn, etc., I also got a lot of messages from clients like, "Oh, amazing that you got this because it's well deserved," etc. Because they already were working with me, and also some of them knew that their projects were being assessed by Microsoft for this. So that was also really interesting to see as well. Yeah, and if you look at the benefits that you have from it, when you become the fast track recognized solution architect, there's of course a bunch of things that, just like it becoming an MVP, you'll get a box with fun stuff in there. I don't know what it is actually, Mohamed. So you need to tell that, of course, because I haven't received it yet.
Oh, you haven't got it?
No,
Really?
no. So I didn't have it yet. The only thing that I got, and that was also a really, really nice touch, I thought. They asked me before they were sending it out. They asked me if I wanted to have an email sent with the congratulations of Charles Lamana in this case, because I am in the Power Platform side of things, and Charles Lamana is of course the big boss of the Power Platform, and they were gonna send an email from him to me, and I could give a couple of names to them to show off. Actually, that's kind of what
I didn't get that.
That's probably also a new one. So I just said some people from from Society. We have an alliance manager that works closely together with Microsoft, and my big boss in the Netherlands. That's someone I put in the list, and my manager itself. So those kinds of people I put in there. But it was really funny because I received that email, and also the other people received that. And they were all responding to that because for them it was also interesting to get an email from Charles Lamana, because that's a really big deal for them also. And I didn't realize that, but that was also a thing for them actually, that they were like, "Oh, wow." So yeah, that was some kind of company thing that they were really loving that, and also talking to him was a good thing for them as well.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing, Daniel, straight after this call, right?
Well,
hanging out with Charles Lamana.
No, send out an email and say, "Where is my email?"
Where's my
where's
my email recognition?
No one even offered that. Oh my god. Yeah. So I think I'm not sure if I can say actually what comes with the gift pack, but I can tell you it's better than the MVP one. I could go that far.
I think you can say it because I have seen a bunch of posts on LinkedIn and Twitter of it last year, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, I think it's a little bit more than the MVP one. If I'm honest, you can get a jacket, you get a big prize, and you get quite a few kind of mugs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was nice, very nice. So, and it's a big box. The MVP one, it's like that size, you guys know, but this one is is a good size, big one, and you get it every year. So.
Oh, really?
Well, just the first time. Well, I got it twice. That might change next year. So, okay.
Do you have to requalify again, or you do? Yeah. Okay. So you have to redo it every year.
I requalify last April. Well,
so you need to get an email, right? Every year.
I get an email from the program lead. Yeah, I got the email from the program lead congratulating me, but I haven't got the email from Charles.
Or like Sachin. I mean, it should have been from Sachin Nadella, surely.
Yeah, even better. Yeah.
Like, how do you see the program adapting moving forward?
Yeah, I think that there might be some more categories because currently I believe it's Power Platform and Dynamics, and that's about it.
It's Power Apps and Power BI, which is all lumped together as Power Platform, isn't it? And then Dynamics is all, like, any form of Dynamics is the other side.
So one of the there's two types of things that's going to be probably with the more categories. One is the categories inside of the larger categories. So you have Power Platform and there's only Power BI and Power Apps in there. There's probably going to be Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate as well. I think that's something that will probably be there, and Power Automate will probably be more RPA focused, etc. Those kinds of things. And this is also a guess, by the way, but I can see that this is going to move to other areas as well, because currently it's only the biz apps kind of spot. So you're talking about Power Platform and Dynamics, but I can see this happening for Microsoft.
So like the Windows. Right. Yeah.
Azure as well, probably. So those kinds of things are, I don't know why they don't have that, but it would be really nice to have that for those categories as well.
Right, and that makes more sense to me because of like how it originated of like from like on-premise to cloud migration, like that makes more sense to me for that to have been like the origin of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this was something that James Phillips kind of started. He wanted to have more of those prizes for people who are working a lot with clients, etc. But I can see it expanding to others as well.
Yeah, and I think they are definitely, I feel, as a program, just like the team, the Fast Track team, and they're moving not away, but they are kind of doing a lot more than just the migration now to the cloud, because very little are left on premise. If you're not yet and you're listening to this call, you should be. But there's very small number of customers left who are on premise and need to move to the cloud. So I think the Fast Track program is now more focusing on the best practices and delivery excellence. We have a Fast Track program that is going at the moment for a customer in Dubai. Actually, they do a due diligence on lots of things, including documentation and the quality of documentation, different obviously technical design, solution design, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's more now focused on the delivery excellence and less on just the migration. They say, the migration just raises a support ticket. We can help if you need, but that's it. But from a involvement of the Fast Track product team, they are focused on the delivery excellence, in which case they would expect architects, Fast Track architects, to be around this kind of delivery of excellence and best practices.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty interesting, because like I think we did a session last week about governance, and I think like that there's a lot more people now pushing those aspects of like making sure that everyone's ducks are in a row, right? And which would suggest that there's like a longer term plan behind that. Like there's a reason why everything needs to be standardized, right? But taking a slightly sideways stance of that, if someone is on this call or someone's watching this recording played back, let's say somebody is a dev and they want to go in a direction of being solution architect, maybe with a long-term view of Fast Track, what would your first or your top tips be for them to do that?
I see Daniel didn't go off mute, so I'll go first. I'm always looking at the mute button to see if anyone wants to talk before me. So I think it's a very good question, Alison. Honestly, I think it's a fantastic question, and we have a lot of fantastic developers in our team. Please don't try to hire them. But I always see that the best people who move from being a developer to being an architect are the people who can do this customer-facing and client-facing and consultancy skills. Because, again, repeating something I said before, but it's very important and I'm passionate about it. You can be the best technical person in the world. If you can't talk to a customer, if you can't explain to the customer what you're doing, you're not an architect yet. A lot of people think that being technically good is the most important and the only important thing. I disagree massively with that. And you've seen, things like MVP. You can be a Microsoft MVP. I don't know, you're not even technical. You could be functional. You could be business oriented, but you're doing massive efforts that really makes huge impact on the community. It has nothing to do with you being strongly technical or not, right? That's the reality. Obviously, a lot of them, and not all of them, are very strong technically and functionally, but that's not a criteria for success as an MVP. From an architect, I think, not as a fast track here, I'm talking generally as an architect, from kind of my experience, I would say definitely being able to manage customer expectations, run a workshop, stakeholder management, all these kind of stuff that we've been talking about, the soft skills, the consultancy skills, is your route from being a very good developer to a very good architect, is these consultancy skills. And they don't happen overnight, but you have to go out of your comfort zone to go into this area. Start doing it. You're not going to be perfect from the first time. No one is perfect. No one was born knowing how to do this. So we all learned it. We all were bad at the beginning or inexperienced, let's say, at the beginning, and then we learned it and we developed and became better. So I would say for everyone on this call, and I know I've got a few Tech Labs London developers on the call, I would say definitely start by looking at your kind of consultancy and client-facing skills, get yourself involved. You don't have to be running the workshop from day one, but attend these workshops and see what you can do to learn and maybe do the next one. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, and for me, it's always I see a lot of people in my team, for instance, also that build solutions for customers. They build apps, etc., those kinds of things, and they do that in a very good way. At first, not so good, but after a while, it gets better and better. And then I can see that they get better and better at that. And then I ask them to do also other type of things. So don't build every time the solution, but maybe you also want to do the governance side of things sometime, because governance, then I have a lot of governance discussions also about best practices and a lot of other topics that might not come into play when you are designing a solution or building a solution, but you would get into that when you go into the governance side of things. So try to be a little bit more broad than just building an app or building a solution, and try to do multiple things.
And if I were to add one more, sorry, Anna, if I were to, because it's a subject I'm very passionate about. If I were to add one more point as well, is, I don't know the best word to describe it, but stamina, okay, in your field. So I know some people get frustrated quickly if things are not going the right direction, or the customer's not great, or your, the way things are going is not perfect. But this is all part of your knowledge and experience, right? If everything is perfect and you know everything is going, it's never perfect. We all know that. I've worked in lots of companies and it's never perfect. Never. I don't think it will ever be. But having a stamina that I know it's complex. I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. I know it's not perfect. I will always try to make it perfect, but I know I'm also not going to make it perfect. Just have that stamina and optimism when you're working with your projects to become a good architect. Because if someone gets scared or worried or not happy because it's too complex for me, I can't do it, or things are not going the right direction, that's how you learn. That's how you gain experiences. I had really bad projects. For the lack of a better word, it starts with SH. I had very difficult projects and very complex projects, and that's where I learned. When I had easy projects and things were going well, and the customer is good, and our team is great, and everything is in line. I didn't really learn anything. I just repeated what I did before. But when it was very complex, I had to come up with different ideas, learn more. So I would call it stamina. You guys might come with a much better term, but I just call it this kind of stamina and willingness to face your difficulties, because that's where you learn and that's where you get.
I think it's grit. You have to have grit and like determination, right? And you have to be prepared. And you know what? I listened to a guy called Andrew Huberman. He does this thing called the Huberman Labs, which is all about neuroscience and such. And he does a lot about learning. And there is some determining factors that will determine how successful you are in work, life, whatever. And one of the main determining factors is people get frustrated when the brain is literally on the cusp of learning something, right? And if you can break through and you don't have that fear of doing something new and different, exactly like you said, I mean, you've obviously haven't listened to Andrew Huberman, but you've got to exactly the same place without all the scientific studies, which is that if you prepare to push through and get frustrated, then you will learn. I always liken it to learning to ride a bicycle. You can't learn to ride a bicycle by someone telling you how to ride it. You have to get on the bike, and that's consultancy, right? You have to get on the bike and you have to pedal it, and you have to fall over and graze your knees and graze your elbows and stuff, but you learn how not to do things. You learn you have to piss someone off at some point for you to make the connection of like, shit, yeah, if I do that and I don't say anything about it, then people get pissed off, right? And you have to go, it's that experience that makes you a consultant. Yeah. It's all of those little bits of experience that add up to being a consultant and being a good consultant. Phil had a question. Are there any criteria required to maintain? Also, I'm just going to call it fast track now because it's too long. Like Carl said, like ask the question, is the name too long? Because even the acronym's too long. Are there any criteria required to maintain fast track status? Hi, Adam.
I have no clue. Seriously.
Mohamed must know that one.
I think you basically have to continue to have exactly what you had before. So it would be the exam certification or requirements that that is required at that time. It would be the criterion group to have the complexity around solution architecture and the number of projects that you've done. I didn't have to do another session with the product engineering team. So this time round, again, that could change next year, but this year I did not have to do this bit because I did it the year before. And I guess this is kind of once you've done it, and I guess that's what they think. So it's pretty much the same, except that I didn't have to do the same face-to-face kind of, not face-to-face, but video kind of session where I had to describe the architecture.
If the exams have changed, because very often they get updated, do you have to retake them, or does the fact that you've... I'm assuming that you do. I'm assuming you just have to retake the new exam. Right?
I think it's important to be always up to date with exams anyway. But again, no one mentioned that specifically, that if you've got MB600, you have to have MPL600, for example. I'm not aware of this being part of the renewal criteria, but I think as a general guidance, it's always good to be always up to date with exams and certification.
Yeah. Daniel, anything to add to that?
No, yeah, for me, I really need to do some renewals, by the way, but I never did them, so it's gonna be my first time. So yeah, but you just need to keep up to date all the time. You need to keep learning, etc. Because I always tell that to new people in the Power Platform, that when I started in 2016, I believe, when Microsoft Flow was still in preview, etc. When I started, the whole Flow Power Automate thing wasn't that big yet. They had like 12 connectors or something. Now they have almost 700 or something like that. And for me, it was really easy to keep track of all the new things. Because I only got every couple of weeks, I got new blog posts, etc. And I have to say that it's now a couple times a week that there's new blog posts. But it used to be only every couple times, every couple weeks. But for me, it was pretty easy to do that. But if you are starting the Power Platform now, to learn everything about the Power Platform is a really, really tough job to do. So you really need to focus on what you want to learn. And when you get there, when you have a certain level, then don't stop and lay back and see what's happening, but keep on learning, because that's the biggest thing that you need to do. If you stop for too long, then you probably need to learn a lot more after that as well. And I always, for me, it always goes really easy to learn new stuff, because I'm always really excited about the new stuff. I always like to try out new things. And for me, that's always top of mind. So that's why I really like doing all the new stuff. But I can imagine that for people, especially after the pandemic, people are still coming back from that, because it was a really tough time. And if you can't keep up, don't worry, you can get there later on as well. So don't let it get to you that much. I want to emphasize that as well.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. I don't think anybody knows everything about everything in the Power Platform. It's just like, and it's evolving so fast. All of this technology, Dynamics, Power Platform, all of it is evolving just so fast that you really need to. I think that sound advice is pick something specific that you're going to keep really on top of. So I think, like, probably I'll ask you for your closing comments, but I think in a roundabout kind of way, we've done get all of your certifications, get onto some projects that are going to afford you the experience to do the fast track, and up your consultancy game, right? And there's a few people that help with that. I mean, I think there's probably a few people on this call that have been through Mark Smith's 90-day mentoring challenge, and there's you should always have a mentor as well, and it should never be your manager. That is one thing I learned from several people, including Ben Von, but you always need a mentor. So any closing thoughts, anything that you'd like to add, or anything else left of field that we haven't covered in the discussion so far? I can't hear you. Try that again. I couldn't hear you, Mohamed.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can you now?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, closing comments. I think we lost you for a few seconds, Alison, but I think it's fine.
Oh.
So Daniel, don't know if you want to start.
No, for me, it's just keep learning the Power Platform, and if you want to become a fast track recognized solution architect, I'm gonna say it out all the time. Then just take it step by step. Look at all the different requirements that we talked about, and take it step by step. Don't try to do everything at once, because that's probably going to be too much for you. Take a look at the steps step by step, and see what might be the easy ones for you, and start with those or something, and then get into the heavier ones later on, or the other way around if you prefer that.
Maybe. Yeah.
People learn in different ways, so that's yeah.
I think my only comment or additional comment would be, make sure that you're a good architect, a successful architect first, and confident architect first, and then go for the certification. The certification just proves what you already are, but I think it's important to aim for which is the most important, but more than the actual certification or accreditation, is to be a good architect, and then the accreditation will come, and you can always work for it.
Right, that's the thing, isn't it? Don't maybe expressly aim for the goal of getting the fast track award, but instead just aim to do the best job you can and be the best that you can. I think most people that I've come up with, in fact, everybody I've come across in this community, everybody's a curious person. They love learning. Everybody wants to do a good job. I don't think I've ever come across anybody that just wants to dial it in and do the bare minimum. So yeah, great. Lovely. Thank you so much. All that remains for me to say is thank you so much to Mohamed and Daniel for joining us and giving their valuable input and their thoughts on fast track recognized solution architects certification. Here's their socials if you want to reach out to them and tell them how wonderful they are. I'm sure they already know. I've told them. So thank you so much for joining us. And who have we got on next month? Is it not confirmed yet?
No, I think we're taking a break because it's this time next month's the eve before Scottish Summit. So
okay, so
we're travelling. I'm travelling. There's going to be
yes. we will be we'll be on the road.
Yay!
Yeah,
Everything will be in Glasgow.
everyone will be in Glasgow. Maybe we should do a live one in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah.
But that involves me not drinking too heavily. So,
Well, I think there's a happy hour there, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all there. Thanks so much, guys. It was really interesting. Thanks so much. Really, I learned some stuff. I hope it was good for all of the people that joined us, and we look forward to seeing you all not in June, but in July, maybe.
Yeah.
Not for my birthday, though.
No.
I'm not doing it on my birthday. I'm 50 this year. If anybody wants to send me money.
Thanks for listening to another great hour. Join us in July for more banter and discussion as we take a break for Scottish Summit. Let us know your thoughts on Twitter or LinkedIn, or subscribe in your usual place.